right, so I let this cure overnight. This particular glue, it starts out flexible. So when it's first drying, although it dries pretty quickly, the initial part of the dry, it's still flexible enough that you can sort of move things around if things have gotten out of place. But this, so let me show you what I used to use more of. I used to use the B7000, and I came across this E8000 and decided to look up, like, what is it? What's the difference? And because it felt sort of similar when I used it, and the difference is that the B7000 stays flexible even after it's completely cured, whereas the E8000 starts out as flexible but then cures to a more firm finish. So, and I kind of like it. I like the stability that it gives, but I also like the flexibility that you have in the beginning to sort of move things around. It dries a little bit faster than the B7000 does, which can be good or bad, depending on how fast you work. The B7000 gives you a little bit more time to work with. If you're just getting started and you're sort of unsure about placement or whatever. So, but once you get faster, I think the E8000 definitely has its place. And I've been using it a lot more, especially for like my base, or if I'm using aluminum wire that has a really high level of flexibility, without a lot of, it doesn't have a tremendous amount of memory. A galvanized steel, I can push and it bounces back. Whereas if I did the same thing to, if I put the same amount of pressure on aluminum, it's going to just bend and it's going to stay that way. But the great thing about aluminum is that it has a certain fluidity when you're bending it, that steel doesn't have. So what I like to do is use the aluminum for the fluidity and the sort of undulating curves that I want to create, because it's a lot easier to bend, and bend in a way that's pleasant looking than I think steel wire is. But steel wire has great memory. I figured we talked about glue already, but these are some of the other glues that I use, and that I swear by. For affixing rhinestones, I use Gemtac. I used to use B7000. I used to use this for like everything. But this is white when it comes out, but it dries completely clear. And this is clear when it comes out. And so if I was like making a lot of different dots of glue to sequence something, to rhinestone something, sometimes I would have a hard time seeing the glue dots of this B7000, and I came across Gemtac, and I love it. However, I really love, honestly, this size is great because it's really easy to use and to get small amounts, but it's not really practical. So I get the bigger size and then I put it in syringes with a blunt tip, and I can then control the application, ... I can see the white glue. I can lay down my rhinestones quickly, and then it dries completely clear. So love this stuff. Works really well, and it is relatively waterproof, if not, well, water resistant, if not waterproof once it dries. Love it. Love it, love it. Fabric Tack. This is actually by the same company, and I use this when I am manipulating flowers, like silk flowers for a floral headpiece, and I want to take the flowers apart, maybe rework them and tack them together, or you know, if you take out that plastic center of a silk flower, so they'll fall apart. So I will use this. This dries very quickly. I also use this when I'm using like fabric or lace in a headpiece. I will use this fabric tack. It's got good hold, and it is fast drying, and it's flexible, which is important when you're working with fabric. You don't want to make it like super stiff unless that's what you're going for. So love this. These are kind of, I use these sort of interchangeably. Prefer the E6000 over goop, although I use the goop for different things, but mostly to use it up. I don't think I'll buy it again, but it's fine. The E6000, now what I use this for, now this stuff stinks and it's got vapors that are harmful and all that, so I try to limit what I use this for. But when I do use it, I go outside and I sit on my back deck, and what I use it for is I will use, I have like a little plastic applicator, and I basically, this stuff is super thick. I remember when I first started, I tried to use this to apply rhinestones, and what a nightmare that was. I mean, I got it to work, but man, I was like, wow, this is for the birds. I don't know if I'm gonna continue doing this little hobby. But what this does is itself, as you can see here, it's self-leveling. So I can, and when you see how thick it is, actually this got a little dried and gross. Anyway, you can squeeze up, and you see how thick it is. And I use this little plastic spackling tool, and I will spackle in the backs of set gems, whether I set them with glue, I set them with wire. I can fill in like the little spaces to make sure it's like a super tight bond. And then it's also paintable, so I can spackle the back of these and then paint over it to make it look nice. Now these particular gems are pretty on the back side, so I'm not really sure what I'll end up doing with those, but any of these wires, I'm gonna spackle over that and I'll paint over that, because I like the backs of things to be finished nicely. I like it to look good from every angle, you know. And so is it overkill? Maybe, I don't know, but that's just sort of what I like, and I don't want to sell something to somebody and it a gem fall out or something like that. I try to make these like bulletproof. And like I've said before, I do make headpieces for a children's ballet theater, which with teenagers, a lot of teens and young dancers, and they're super hard on stuff. So the more bulletproof I can make something, as long as it doesn't like make it goopy or anything like that, the better. So that's what I use this E6000. So you kind of spackle it on, and then you let it level itself out, and it's really good for that. And it will seal up, and that stuff isn't going anywhere. But like I said, I use this only outside, and then I let the piece dry overnight outside. Luckily, I have a covered back deck, and I leave everything outside until there's no more smell to it. Anyway, this stuff's great. It looks like I need a new tube. I probably have another tube somewhere anyway. Now you can tell this is well loved and gross, and I could probably spend hours picking glue off this glue container. And actually that's quite satisfying, and I might do that. But anyway, this stuff is great. It is exactly what it says it is. It's tacky glue, and I use it, I will put it on my wires after I slide my what is the piping cover over the wire. I will pull it back, cover it in tacky glue, and then cover it back. I also use it to keep like the ends of the cording from fraying, and it dries pretty quickly. It's water soluble, so it's easy to get off my hands. It's fun if you get like, I don't know if when you were a kid, you would get Elmer's glue. It has a very much of an Elmer's glue vibe. However, once it's dry, it dries crystal clear, and it's water resistant once it's dry. So that's kind of nice, right? And I feel like this is like the least toxic of probably of the stuff that I use. And as you can see, I don't have much left in this one, so I have a little caddy and I store it upside down so I don't have to, you know, do the ketchup bottle thing. So I store it upside down like this and it's ready to go. I've also used this for setting rhinestones before, but I prefer the gem tack simply because that's what it's made for, and it probably does a better job. And I like the fact that gem tack is waterproof once it dries. But very similar consistency, very similar. They're both white glues that dry clear. But I go through, I'm almost through this 8-ounce bottle, so that tells you how much I use that. So that's glue. Fascinating. But anyway, those are all the glues, different glues that I use. And I've tried a lot of different stuff, and I don't love everything I tried, but everything I showed you today I use and I love, and I will continue to use. So there you have it.